Yeah. Once again, Cosmic Mind UV, second show of the day. We're gonna let the players play, man. Let me go share it out so we can see what it's all about, man. And we gonna get to it, man. We gonna get to it. We gonna get to it. We gonna get to it. All right. So just chill, relax. Make sure you share when you come in. Make sure you put on your notification. Put on the subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you donate to the channel, man. Make sure you donate to the channel. All right. Peace and abundance. Be right back. All right, let's go. Higher self versus lower self. Here's an overview of higher self versus lower self. Lower self, nature, toxic, evil, ego driven, survival based, reactive, focus, material gain, fear, anger, lust, jealousy, competition, and instant gratification. Mindset, limited thinking, self doubt, victim mentality, attached to external validation. See, I had a lot of homies and a lot of different people, uh, they got these type of things, the limited thinking and mindset and all of that type of stuff, man. That's what I was saying in the last show we just did, about the awakened beings and all of that, man. You got to be around people that's, man, because that limited mindset or thinking and shit is bananas. Impact keeps a person stuck in cycles of unhealthy habits, toxic relationships, stress, and lack of inner peace. Higher self, nature, because we're gonna do part 2 and 3 of this when it comes to relationships, when it comes to diet and etc. So we're gonna do part 2 and 3 of this. Higher self, nature, spirit driven, intuitive, aligned with divine or universal truth. Focus, growth, love, compassion, wisdom, purpose, balance, and long-term fulfillment. Mindset, abundant thinking, self-awareness, gratitude, resilience, and service to others. Impact leads to clarity, peace, healing, stronger intuition, and the ability to create meaningful life. The relationship between the two. The lower self is not quote unquote bad, end quote. It is necessary for survival and grounding in the physical world. The higher self provides vision, wisdom, and direction beyond survival, guiding toward purpose and expansion. The journey of life is learning to balance both, mastering the lower self while allowing the higher self to lead. Overall takeaway, the lower self represents the raw, ego-centered, toxic ego-centered aspects of human experience, while the higher self represents our divine awakened essence. The true empowerment comes when one recognizes both, however, chooses to operate more from the higher, turning struggles into growth and embodying wisdom, love, and alignment with truth. How do these pertain to Black people or the original people? Let's connect higher self versus lower self directly to the original Black experience, etc., both individually and collectively. Lower self in the original or Black experience, systemic conditioning, colonization, etc., etc., etc. Many Black people live in survival mode, fear and lack of and division, ego and disconnection, racism and trauma can trigger anger, jealousy, or competition within the community. Crabs in the barrel, end quote, mentality, end quote. Y'all, a lot of people say that over the years. Material distractions. Mainstream media pushes hyper consumerism, which we talked about that on the click farms and the bot farms and all that shit. Toxic hookup culture and glorification of violence, all feeding the lower self. Impact. This keeps communities stuck in cycles of poverty, self-doubt, poor health, and generational wounds. Higher self in the Black experience or the carbon tone or etc. experience. Spiritual awakening. Historically, the original people have deep spiritual traditions, African and or indigenous spirituality, meditations, music, dance, and etc. ancestors that align with higher self energy or energy. Collective power. when living from the highest self, unity, cooperation, and love strengthen the community instead of competition. Resilience and healing. Choosing peace, healing trauma, and focusing on growth allows the original people to rise above systemic obstacles. Impact leads to strong families, enlightened or awakened economics, healthier lifestyles, and collective liberation. Why it matters individually, each original person or black person or copper tone or sexual person who chooses their higher self breaks free from mental slavery, trauma cycles, and toxic programming, basically indoctrination. Collectively, the more original people who awaken, the stronger the community becomes spiritually, economically, and culturally. Balance. The lower self is still needed, quote unquote, for survival and defense. However, the higher self must guide the direction of the community. Overall, for the original people, living in the higher self means reclaiming power, healing generational wounds, and embodying divine purpose while refusing to let systems and oppression keep them trapped in fear, toxic ego, and division. Why is it important for black women? This is, let's get into it. High and lower self is especially important for black women, the original women. Lower self and the original women. Programming and trauma. The original women have carried generational pain and, etc., forcing them into survival mode. This can create cycles of stress, quote unquote, strong women syndrome, end quote, and emotional shutdown. Body objectification. Society often reduces the original women to their bodies, hypersexualization, beauty standards, etc., keeping them tied to ego, toxic ego, and external validation. Toxic relationships. If guided by the lower self, many fall into cycles of unhealthy partners, hookup culture, and settling due to fear of loneliness. Self-doubt. The lower self thrives on insecurity, causing the original women to shrink their power, ignore intuition, or put others first at the cost of their own well-being. Higher self and the original women. Sacred womb energy or energy. The original women carry life force power. The womb holds generational memory. Do you hear that? The womb holds generational memory. So body count does fucking matter. And who you be fucking and all of that does matter. And creative energy. The living from the higher self helps cleanse trauma and birth healing, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Spiritual leaders. Historically, the original women have been healers, teachers, and nurturers. Living from the higher self reconnects them to that ancestral role. Self-love and intuition. The higher self empowers women or the original women to trust their inner voice, set boundaries, and attract healthier relationships overall. Breaking generational cycles by choosing love over fear, healing over trauma. The original women set the tone for families and the future generations. Divine alignment. The higher self connects the original women to their purpose, whether it's business, art, healing, activism, or family, etc. Why it's important. The original women are pillars of the original community. When they rise into the higher self, the ripple effect uplifts children, families, and the entire community. The world often tries to pull the original women into their lower self through media, stereotypes, trauma, etc. All right, y'all. I got a little appointment coming up, by the way. So I'm gonna take a commercial break very soon. Once the person get here, just a short one. Just to get them situated. They got a contract to come in. All right. All right, let's go. However, reclaiming the higher self is a radical act of healing, power, and liberation overall. For original women, choosing the higher self means reclaiming divine feminine power, breaking free from systemic uh, traps, and becoming the foundation for collective healing and liberation. Why is it important for the original man, higher self, and the importance for the original man, original men? Lower self and the black man or the original man. Systemic traps. Society pushed the original men in survival mode through racism, etc., etc. This fuels anger, fear, and ego-based or toxic ego-based reactions. Toxic masculinity. Media and culture often equate manhood with violence, dominance, sexual conquest, or material possessions, all rooted in the lower self. Suppressed emotions. Many original men are thought or taught not to show vulnerability, leading to bottled up trauma, poor mental health, and broken relationships. Self destruction, addiction, crime, and unhealthy competition within the original community are often tied to the lower self. Higher self in the original black man or copper tone original men. Divine masculinity, living from the higher self means leading with wisdom, discipline, and protection, not control or fear. Healing power. When the original men had healed trauma and tapped into their higher self, they transformed anger into focus, fear, focus. They transform anger into focus, fear into courage, and pain into purpose. Healthy leadership. Higher self men or the original men become protectors, providers, and guides for families and communities rather than oppressors or competitors. Spiritual strength, aligning with the higher self, deepens intuition, resilience, and inner peace, allowing the original men to thrive despite systemic challenges. Legacy building, instead of chasing temporary gratification, the original black men of copper tone, etc. men in their higher self create wealth, knowledge, and spiritual foundations for future generations. Why it's important. The original men are often targeted by systems that of oppression to keep them trapped in their lower self. Escaping that cycle is revolutionary. When the original men rise into their higher self, they shift from being seen as threats to being pillars of wisdom, strength, and protection in their families and communities. The healing of the original men's souls is deeply tied to the healing of the original women and children, making it essential for a collective liberation. Excuse me, liberation overall. For original men, living from the higher self means breaking free from systemic traps, embodying divine masculinity, and creating a foundation of strength, healing, and legacy for the black community or the original community. What character traits do these look like in the original woman and man, etc. community? Let's break it down. The character traits of the higher self and the lower self. Um, uh, Specifically, we almost ready for you for your joint. Specifically for the original woman and men and the community. All right, all right. Had to get a little sippy sip for the lippy lip. Uh, Pause on or whatever. All right. Lower self traits. Lower self traits. The original women. Self doubt, people pleasing, over responsibility, quote unquote, superwoman syndrome, end quote. We got to do a show on superwoman syndrome. Hold on, let me put that in my notes, y'all. I did one? Okay. Okay, send them more, send them more. I think I did that show already. Okay, gratitude. All right. It says, yeah, superwoman syndrome, etc., and quote, emotional suppression or overreaction, attachment to external validation, appearance, status, approval, fear of vulnerability. So y'all got that too. So don't be just saying that for men, goddammit. Y'all be having it too. But anyway, reactive in relationships, anger, jealousy, resentment. For the original men, it comes through as aggression, dominance, or intimidation, or over competitiveness with peers or community, emotional suppression, quote unquote, bottling up feelings, end quote, pursuit of materialism over purpose, short-term gratification, sex, money, power, etc. Victim mentality. Or we gotta do fellas one on fellas discipline too, fellas, but we gonna get there. Victim mentality or blame shifting, community, division, mistrust, or crabs in a barrel, quote unquote, mentality. Focus on survival over growth. Focus on survival over growth. Reactive to systemic oppression rather than strategic action, internalize negative stereotypes, scarcity mindset, lack of cooperation or long term planning, higher self traits for the original woman, self love, self respect, and confidence, emotional intelligence and healthy expression of feelings, strong intuition and inner guidance, boundaries that protect energy or energy and relationships, over healing oriented mindsets, personal and generational, compassion, empathy, and nurturing leadership. The original men, emotional resilience and vulnerability, integrity, honor, and accountability, purpose driven mindsets, legacy, and community focus, leadership that protects and uplifts others, wisdom and decision making and patience, collaboration rather than competition, fellas. Community, and we got to do that more, fellas. We got to collaborate more than goddamn compete, man. Um, and want to get over. Community, unity, cooperation, and collective empowerment, strategic growth, economics, knowledge, spiritual development, healing of trauma and ancestral wounds, support systems and mentorship across generations, long-term vision and abundance mindset. Overall pattern. Lower self keeps individuals reactive, toxic, ego driven, and stuck in cycles of fear, scarcity, and division. The higher self transforms individuals into self aware, spiritually aligned, and community based leaders, creating a ripple effect of healing, empowerment, and liberation across the Black community. All right. Okay, the next voice that you will hear is Empress. Start taking you far no matter where you are. She's gonna do her portion of the show, and I do my conclusion. She's getting all of her stuff together and situated, getting her area situated in the studio and all that. And so y'all just give us a second. We're gonna change up the beat. It's gonna be on repeat. Don't fall asleep. Yeah, man. All right, so we're gonna be right back. Small commercial break. Like I said, if you would like to do collaboration, interviews, things of that nature on Cosmic Mind UV, make sure you come through. Make sure you collab or link with me on any of the other platforms and all of that other stuff, all of the spaces and all that. Um, let's collab, fellas. Let's collab, ladies. Let's collab. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get your stuff out there. Let's get your purpose, your whatever out there. You know what I mean? Sacred space is all in your face that's coming through the night. We're gonna take flight. You see what I'm saying? Empress Star, goddamn, gonna take you far no matter where you are. She got some excellent topics, cooked up for y'all. So, ladies, that is literally a space for the melanin copper tone, the original Black woman, the copper tone woman. So, we gonna take a small commercial break, and Empress Star gonna take you far no matter where y'all.
Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Thanks for waiting on me to come through. It seemed like it's been a long time since I had a time to chat with you guys. But so hey, tonight we're gonna be. I have sacred space tonight, so come on through. Maybe 5 o'clock or so. I'll have a show going out for you. So make sure you have your notifications on, and that's Eastern Standard Time. All right, so we were talking about the higher self versus the lower self, and we're gonna jump right back into that because I need to know how do you know if you're living through your higher self versus your lower self? You know, it's a lot more than just people saying you need to live through your higher self or follow your higher self. What is your higher self? Are you talking about God? You know, if you're still indoctrinated, are you talking about that other person? Um, because we know there's no white daddy in the sky. So what exactly are we talking about when we are referring to the higher self? I know personally, living through your higher self means moving beyond your ego, past the ego, growing into your ego. A lot of times people say you have to grow out of your ego, but honestly, I think you have to grow into your ego because honestly, the ego don't want to be ignored. It wants to be integrated. The ego is a part of you that a lot of time has helped you through. A lot of times you have a big ego because of the things that has happened. So instead of you just trying to drown out your ego, maybe you need to cultivate your ego and integrate your ego instead of a lot of people just telling us to, you know, let it go. Um, you have clarity and purpose because the higher self it carries the blueprint of who you are, who you truly are. So when you live through it, you gain clarity on your life purpose instead of just wandering in confusion or being controlled by outside influences. You have more inner peace. The ego starts to react out of fear, trauma, and lack. The higher self moves in love, wisdom, and wholeness. Living through it calms the chaos and helps you find peace even in storms. And we are just talking about how do you know um, that you're living through your higher self. You have freedom from all the chaos and programming that's going on, that has been going on, and that continues to go on. You're more aware of the things. You're aware of the generational things that's been levied against you, the oppressions that program us to believe the lies about who we are, who we were. The higher self is untouched by those illusions and guides you back to the truth and self sovereignty. You get a deeper connection to spirit and ancestors because your higher self is your spiritual compass, the bridge to the creator, to the ancestors, to the orishas, to the higher powers, to the source. Your your higher self is the link to divine guidance. It aligns you with the sacred wisdom that can be assessed, that cannot be accessed through just logic and emotion. You get healing and transformation. When you choose the higher self over the wounded self, you naturally begin to break cycles, to release the pain that you've been going through, and step into the healing that you deserve. It allows you to elevate above survival mode and into true thriving. You know, down with the S word, it's time for us to start thriving, not just surviving. You can see that because you'll be empowered, and you can see that through because your manifestations will start to come through. Your higher self knows no limitations, none. So living through it empowers you to manifest abundance and attract healthier relationships. With people who are more aligned with you, like which Cosmic Mind just did a show earlier on uh, having more woke or awakened friends and interacting with people who are more on the level with you instead of just having like pointless conversations. The conversations are ones that are substance, ones that are about growth, ones that are about empowerment, and you'll start to bring those types of people in your life because you're working from a place of your higher self and not just in the lower self where the base level emotions are there: greed, anger, sadness, pain, trauma, yada yada yada, list goes on. um, yeah, you start to break away from those things, gossipy things, things that don't serve you anymore, bad habits, etc., etc. You know all the bad things that you need to let go of, all the trauma bonding you need to let go of. You know all of that. Just let it go. Let it go. So you can start to align with your destiny. That's it. That's all you got to do. That's it. So basically, your higher self is the truth of who you truly are. And living through it is how you reclaim your power, your inner peace, and purpose. So, how do you know if you're living um, through your higher self versus the lower self? Um, First of all, you're going to choose peace over chaos. You respond instead of reacting, even when triggered. Mm. So you respond instead of just reacting. You pick love based choices. You move from compassion, understanding, and abundance instead of fear of lack. You're aligned with your purpose, so decisions feel guided, not forced, and things also just flow naturally. Your intuition feels clear because you trust your inner knowing, and it often leads to the right path. Not to mention you have non-attachment. You can let go of people, things, or situations, no matter how near and dear to you, no matter the label that the person may have, no matter the qualities the person may have, no matter the job title, no matter how much money it could make you or bring your business, um, because of the integrity. You're not attached to anything that does not serve you or your growth. Period. Point blank. You have healing energy. You break cycles instead of repeating them. You break the cycles instead of repeating them. You choose growth over comfort. No matter how hard it is or uncomfortable it is, you choose that because you know that in the end, it goes with you. It serves your growth instead of goes against the grain. Service and upliftment. You want to elevate yourself and others, not just satisfy the ego. So, how do we know if we're living in our lower self? It's absolutely ego driven. You want to control, not, and like I said earlier, the ego is meant to be integrated. So this is from a the negative aspect, the negative polarity of the ego. You need to feel like you're in control. You always need validation or comparison to feel worthy. You have fear, and you're always in survival mode. So you make choices out of worry, scarcity, and insecurity instead of knowing exactly what you need to do, having a definite aim. Um, it's going to be forced. And if it's forced, then it's probably going to be the wrong decision. And you react out of emotions. You're quick to anger. You're very defensive. Usually you're jealous And here's a big one. You gossip, 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 chitting and chatting, chatting and chitting about something, about everything that means nothing. It's time to have substance in conversations so that you can grow and get out of the lower nature, out of the lower self. You're stuck in the past. You hold unnecessary grudges, which is doing nothing but deteriorating you on the inside, killing you, because 9 times out of 10, that person that you're holding a grudge against is not thinking or caring about you and what you got going on. So you over here angry at them, giving them that energy, and they not caring about you. You replaying them old wounds, which doing nothing, hurting yourself, keeping yourself stuck in that loop, keeping yourself in that cycle, and blaming others. It's nobody's fault. Maybe that situation was their fault, but you continuously blaming other people. Other people, you get in relationships and it look a certain way, so you blame them, but it's not even them. It's you. You blaming everybody for you not healing. You living in the lower, in your lower level energies. You not just letting it go. Like, just let it go. That's the word of the day. The quote of the day. Let it go. You usually are disconnected, feeling lost, purposeless, or constantly seeking outside approval. When that doesn't matter, especially if you're seeking it from social media, because the algorithms are rigged. So 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna get the right energy that you're searching for. Usually, you're always self-sabotaging yourself because you repeat toxic cycles, you ignore your intuition, and you start to become numb with distractions. Which is what? Going to lead to what? A lack of accountability. You blame everybody instead of just taking a responsibility and choosing healing over the mess. So the higher self uplifts, expands, and connects, while the lower self restricts, drains, and keeps you in stuck cycles. And honestly, that's what's going on right now. Um, Most of the world is working from a low vibrational energy. So it's time for us to start choosing to work from our higher selves, even if it's just a small task a day. You know, um, you about to curse this person out. Instead of you doing that, just say hi or not. Every time you choose to do something positive, it starts to rewire your brain, and it lets your body know that no, we don't want to do this anymore. And so you start to work from a higher level. You start to work from your higher self. But just like you put energy and effort into working from a lower level, you can also put the energy and effort in so you can start to work from a higher level, so you can raise your vibration, raise the frequency. Once one person start raising the frequency, then you're going to start bringing more people with the higher vibration in, and then just keep on building and growing, and we can all start changing the frequency. So that's all I wanted to talk about with you guys. It's time for us to start working from a higher self. It's time for us to just envision the life that we want and become the person that we want to be. And that takes energy and effort. What they say in the scriptures, faith without works is dead. So you can believe, you can have faith that you're going to do this or be this person, but until you start putting energy and effort into becoming, you will never be. So this is what we want. We want to start working and living from a higher place, from a higher energy, but we're doing the same things, having the same routines. It's time to start changing the routines so we can start changing the energy. That's it. That's all. Don't forget to come hang out with me tonight. I'll be shooting out a message to let you know when it's going to be. Thank you so much. I'll see you later at Sacred Space. Once again, this is Empress Star here to take you very, very far.
Oh man, ah, that was such a treat. We should put it on repeat, ain't it, man? That was such a treat. We should put it on repeat. But look, man, I hope you ain't fall asleep, man. Cosmic Mind UV, higher self, lower self. Put your ego on the shelf. Put the toxic ego on the shelf. You see what I'm saying? Hope all is well. Peace and abundance. Royal day. We're going to let the players play. Another great show. Make sure you put on your notification for the nation. Make sure you recommend people to this to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you donate. And guess what? Cosmic Mind UV.